This is our second podcast, and I am thrilled today to have with us Darren Weiss, actor and producer, and my good friend Steve Sherman, who's a billiard coach. Uh, we have Darren has just come out with a new movie called Break, and as a pool player, we all love pool movies. How can you not love a pool movie? And Steve was the billiard consultant. He was the expert on the show and worked with Darren. Darren, guys, welcome. I'm so happy to have you guys with us today.
Roy, thanks for having me. And, Roy actually helped a little bit during Steve and I's training especially with the power break. So it's good to see you again, Roy, and thanks for having us. And Steve, obviously, I couldn't have done what I did without you. So it's nice to come full circle.
Now, the movie's just came out on Prime. And I know I have a lot of pool playing friends, and I know that a lot of them haven't seen it yet because it costs like $12 to watch it. So I know that they're all kind of waiting for me to show it to them. But what I'd like to do is just to set the stage, I'd like to play the trailer.
So seriously, where have you been?
It's your break, kid.
I'm playing some pool.
I'm part of this special club. When you're ready to play, call me.
Trying to get my sister into this special school.
Do you have any idea how expensive this is?
I'm ready to play.
My boy's back from the dead.
Now, this spot is the last one hanging around, but we got a tight crew.
My dad used to play here, didn't he?
Fast sets, fast shots, fast dough. You ready to make some money? These guys won't even know what hit them.
You don't want to end up like your daddy, do you?
No drinking. No gambling.
You had to run away. You should do the same.
I want to watch you win. And lose, which I'm sure you do sometimes.
Just go.
Let's play. Double it this time.
How much? 25,000. 25,000.
I messed up. I want a rematch.
If you lose this time, that's it.
Okay. So I want to show that trailer only because I know a lot of people watching this podcast. Yet I'm encouraging to watch the movie. They haven't seen it yet. Now so from the trailer we'll see that this movie has a lot of stuff. It has romance. It has some drama. It has pool. Although I don't really know too many pool halls like that. Do you know, Steve? Is that what you go to? But it's still it houses your story, which is all good. So tell us how this story came about, Darren. How did this come about?
Yeah, so it was over COVID. And I've been acting for 7, 8 years now. And I've been lucky enough to work a decent amount, and I would get roles in movies, but I'd play characters where they weren't leading characters, they were supporting, and I'd have maybe 2 or 3 scenes or something. And I really wanted to take it upon myself to sort of create a character that I know that I could play and that I sort of crafted to, what I wanted to portray. And over COVID, I came up with an idea and I collaborated with some writers. And the writers actually brought up the idea. Originally, it was about a swimmer. And then one of the writers, his name's Spencer Mandel, he said, "How do you feel about a pool hall?" He's like, I think a pool hall is a character in itself, and you have a lot of interesting characters within a pool hall that could add an interesting dynamic to the story. And I loved it. And from there, we just collaborated. And, that's sort of how it came about. But I wanted to do it in a way where, sure, it's a movie about pool, but it's a movie about a lot deeper issues of sort of what Eli's going through, right? And I wanted to figure out a way how I could incorporate pool, but sort of make it the backdrop of the movie, not so much the forefront. And I think we did a really good job of incorporating the pool world and these characters within a pool hall in Eli's journey to, sort of becoming who he is and comfortable in his own skin,
Yeah, and that leads into one of my next questions: is why pool? I mean, the story you've told, all the pool players we all know, the movies that we all know are, The Color of Money, Hustler, Walter Tevis does his work, and those really those are great stories. They're great movies and great books because they're great stories, and they're not necessarily about pool. They could be. You could take that same story and place it somewhere else. Matter of fact, now people are aware of the Queen's Gambit that Walter also wrote, and that's a very similar story, but it's in the chess world. So
Correct.
that was, it's just it's just the pool, or the chess world, or whatever sport you're picking, is just really framing the underlying story, and it's a story that makes it a good book or a good movie. Although I am curious to know how you would have gotten in shape for the swimming version of the story.
I probably would have done the same thing I did for pool, hired a professional swim coach. And, I think with pool, people have such a, when you say pool hall, I think people imagine one thing, and sure, that could be it. But there's so much, as you both know, that really happen in a pool hall when you sort of, anytime you go into a pool hall, and especially Roy, you have, your own place. It sort of becomes like a brotherhood, and you're sort of part of this family, and it's like you're accepted into this place. And I felt that a little bit when I was, when we were shooting here in LA, Steve, just at Sportsman's Billiards. Everyone was so friendly and brought me in. And I think, pool halls or pool houses, it's a community of people, and they're so accepting and warm. And yeah, sure, you think grungy or inner city, and that could be, but I think what made it so special was, when you peel back the layers, much like when you peel back what's going on with Eli, there's so much more there than meets the eye. And I sort of wanted to open that up, just so people could see beyond the layers of just, oh, it's a pool hall. You know what I mean?
So I know this story was something that you came up with, even though you had other people write it. But tell me what it is about the character Eli that really attracted to you. What's special about this character?
Eli has a lot of things going on at home. He's out of high school, and his friends have sort of moved on. He works 2 jobs. His mom's an alcoholic. His sister has special needs. His dad's not in the picture. We're not really sure what happened to the dad. And I think, at least for me growing up, and I know a lot of people, no one's perfect and everyone has their insecurities. And, I think the idea that it's okay not to be okay, or it's, be who you are in your own skin. For me, that was something big, throughout my childhood and coming into adulthood. And I wouldn't be the person I am without people in my life when I was younger who sort of maybe went through the same thing that sort of took me under their wing. So that's what I liked about the aspect of the pool hall, is you had these interesting characters. You had this guy Draper, played by Victor Rasuk, and the owner of the pool hall, her name was Hattie, Patricia Belcher. They all, I think there's a character that everyone can relate to in this movie. And, it's through these people in the pool hall where you would least expect it, where Eli sort of learns to be who he is, and, is okay with the idea that yeah, be who you are in this world. And, I think that just goes back to, sometimes you find comfort in places where you would least expect it, and, we really see Eli throughout the movie come out of his shell when he warms up to Draper and he's in this pool hall and he's playing well and things are going well with the love interest, Millie, played by Braden Brunner, who did a great job. And, I think the casting was really great. And, I think Steve can talk to it a little bit, but Victor as Draper, and, Jeff Kober, who's been acting for 40 years, who played Jimmy the Hand, even a villain. But, his character even sort of shaped who Eli is. So, I think it was just like a full circle moment for me, and I could take some things that I experienced as a child into this movie. And I remember like how I felt when I was uncomfortable in certain situations, and then when I would come a place where I would least expect it, and I've never felt so much comfort or at home in a place like a pool hall where one would least expect it.
Yeah, and I agree. The acting was great. I have a clip I want to go through. Me a moment. I want to add in another clip. Now, this is a clip I got from Steve, and I want to get Steve. I'm going to ask you about this clip first because you were hired to help Darren learn how to play pool. And Darren, this is when you were just first starting out, and you got a really easy shot with that one ball, trying to do a 3-ball run. The one ball's going in the side pocket, and you would think nobody can miss that shot. Now, Steve, you're looking at this, and you got to teach this guy. You got to teach this guy how to play some pool, at least well enough to be authentic and believable in this movie. And you see this happen. What's going through your mind at that point?
Roy, you're making me look bad. Come on.
No, we have a progression here. I have more clips. We have a progression.
Okay, good.
So what I wanted to do, and I thought the first question I asked Darren was I wanted to know what his goal was. Was his mission to be an actor that looked like he could play? And he said, Steve, no, I want to be an actor that plays pool and knows how to play the game properly. And he wanted to make all his own shots, and he wanted to be authentic and genuine. And so I did certain assessments. I said, let me see you run a basic pattern. Let me just see you shoot. And so I put him through the same kind of assessment as I would put anyone who wanted to learn the game properly. And I just realized, and he and I talked about this, that we were going to start from the very beginning. That was the very beginning of his training. And if you look, you could see he knew how to hold a cue. He knew he had played before, but hadn't had proper training. And so I just said, we're going to take it from the beginning, and we're going to go right to the basics of bridge and stance and alignment. And we were going to go through a pretty strict and disciplined progression, which happened to be based on, frankly, our break and run curriculum that I teach.
Well, let's give our audience a little background, Steve. You're a PBIA advanced level instructor, and so you teach pool. And the break and run program is something that we'll tell everybody that you and I do together. It's a free program that the BCA, the Billiard Congress of America, and WPA put on. It offers free instruction to kids all over the world, right? And so we do have a program, we do have a curriculum, and I did recognize some of this curriculum with what you were working, but and I have to tell you, Darren, that's very commendable, because some of the worst movies in the world, not just pool movies, but the worst movies are pool players trying to act. And there's a couple come to mind.
Any sport that doesn't look natural.
Just when you put in it, and they're trying to act, and it turns out just horrible. And I think any pool movie, we're always better off having actors, but to have an actor that actually wants to learn or has some learning is terrific. In The Hustler, Jackie Gleason was actually a pretty respectable pool player, and so it brought a lot of authenticity to the role. Minnesota Fats in that movie. And so having an actor who can act and is willing to learn or play pool, it brings a lot of authenticity, a lot of credibility to any pool movie. Now I understand. How often did you guys get together for this?
Often. We worked pretty hard. I would say, Steve, I've been saying, I've been getting that question a lot. I think we were at the height, we were 3 days a week, probably 2 to 3 hours a day for, 3 months leading up to the movie. Does that sound about
That's right. That's exactly right. And it was a lot of work. I took, you were mentioning, Roy, so I am a PBIA instructor and I have a structured curriculum and we have a structured curriculum. I took them through about a year's worth of training in 3 months. And it was pretty intense. So as he's saying, we met 3 times a week, 3 hours a day, no breaks in those 3 hours. We had a lot to do in a very short amount of time. And we had to build forward every time that we met. And then even after that, we would have freshen up sessions, before, a given shoot or something of that nature. It was actually a pretty intense training.
Okay, now I do have a follow-up clip that because we're talking about a somewhat of a progression here. So I want to show a follow-up clip that that takes place just a little further along in your training. Now, that first clip, when you first started working with Steve, you missed a very, very easy shot. That one ball in the side pocket, which kind of shot that haunts you, but now a little further along in the training, we see you doing much better. Steve set up a 5-ball pattern, and you're approaching the table with some level of confidence and without much trouble positioning the cue ball and making the run out. Now, later on in this podcast, I will show a third clip that that shows how far you progressed by the end of your training. So this is very good. Shows that you put in a lot of time and made a lot of effort. And Steve was a good coach, and you certainly appear to have been a good student. Practice started to pay off. So Steve, how now, you and I work together a lot. We train students, we put together programs, we support programs around the world, training programs. How was it for this kind of focus? Were you guys working under a deadline?
Well, yeah, I mean, we definitely had a shooting deadline, and that drove the intensity of the training. And I would say, I mean, Darren is a true student of the game, which really made it easy. And he picks up so quickly. And, I don't say that because he's here. I mean, you could see, that's maybe, a month in and, we meet, he, can't make ball on the side. And then like a month later, he's fluid. He's got rock solid fundamentals. His bridge was great. He's got a pendulum stroke going on there. He's very comfortable moving around the table. It was night and day. And that's probably about 4 weeks.
So Darren, I have to ask, after the movie's completed, it's out, it's great. Are you still playing pool? Is this something you still do?
Yeah, I really enjoy playing. I haven't played much, but I have a pool table back home in Detroit. Whenever I'm home, I play. I've gone to a few bars with my buddy over the last few months, and we play like team doubles, and I do pretty well. Like, I'm not gonna, I don't want to like toot my own horn, but like it's pretty crazy. Even not practicing as much as Steve and I practice. I went to a pool hall and like I just like ran off. I had 3 or 4 ball runs at a time, and the fundamentals are still there. And yeah, I really enjoy it, and I really want to start playing consistently again. And I got to talk to Steve about that. And I got to give Steve credit. The first day he came to a movie set, it's a lot of hurry up and wait, but the poor Steve, it was his first day was an overnight shoot, and it was the scene in the frat house, the party scene. And Steve, the director, Will Wernick, pretty much asked Steve to like map out every shot. And like the first or second take of that scene, Steve, I think I hit like 6 or 7 in a row to start. And we were there till like 6 a.m. and I felt so bad because it was his first day on set and it was an overnight shoot, which always isn't great. It's tiring, but Steve set up the shots, and Will told Steve exactly what he was looking for shot wise, and it was pretty cool.
It was a great experience, and one of the things I kind of wanted to talk to people about is I don't know that people really understand what it is to actually be on set and what goes on when you're filming actually. And if you think about it from any given perspective that you're watching through the camera as an audience, well, where's all the stuff? Where's all the camera equipment? Where's all the lighting? Where's all the gear? Where's everything, right? It's behind the shooter, right? It's behind the shooter. Everything is behind the shooter. So if you think about it, some have said, well, why was it like a shot and then a shot and then a shot? Well, there's a shot and then you got to go to the other side of the table, right? So it's like, okay, pick up all the gear, move everything to the other side of the table. It was very interesting to me because I went with this thought that, we were just going to film and, it just goes fluid, but it doesn't. Those runs, to Darren's credit, when we play as players, we kind of get in that zone where you go from shot to shot to shot. In Darren's case, he's got to shoot. You got to pick up the gear. You got to move it to the other side of the table. And then he's got to, get down and make it, fluid as if it was all just one big movement. That was a big lesson for me is what it actually takes to actually film something like this is very complicated, very complicated.
Hey, Darren, what about the other actors? I mean, Jeff Kober, these actors are great. They're terrific actors, and we recognize them from a lot of other. Patricia, who played Hattie, we recognize these people from a lot of other events. Did they get to play pool too? Did they?
Yeah, Jeff, for instance, was really excited. He had never played a role like this, and he's enamored with the world of pool. And I think Steve, I think, worked with Jeff a few times, and I think even Victor came to a couple of my lessons who played Draper. Victor was only in one scene where he was actually shooting pool, so he didn't need much, but obviously Jeff needed more. And Steve, I think you and Jeff worked a few times on your own, and you and Victor may have worked once on your own, or at least with me. And I'm sure they were just as great to work with,
Yeah, Jeff Kober was awesome to work with. And it was very important for me when I worked with you, when I worked with Jeff. You were two very different characters in the movie, right? So I gave you different styles, which I don't know if that came across to many, but Jeff's style was a little bit rougher. I gave him a closed bridge, for example. I had him breaking off the rail. You were a much more polished player with more disciplines. I had you actually. I had trained you both differently to look like very different players. But yeah, I worked with Jeff about 3 times, and just a great. The other thing, you kind of talked about this brotherhood in a pool hall. I found that with the actors in the set. Like if anybody maybe has this notion about what actors or actresses are in terms of standoffish or this or that. It was amazing to work with each and every person that I worked with, and had an opportunity to see on set. Very, very welcoming, warm family there on that whole set, from Will to yourself to Jeff to Victor to just everybody was just really wonderful people.
Well, I don't want to give anything away from the movie, but at the end of the movie, in my mind, it left it left open the possibility for a sequel. Any plans for a follow-up movie on this, a sequel to this movie?
Yeah, it's funny. A lot of people have been asking about that, and there's a lot of different ways we could take it without giving away the end of the movie, you know. So I guess, you know, we'll just see, you know, how it does here in the next few months. And you know, it's getting really good reviews and it has a good rating on IMDb. And, you know, it's been out for 3 weeks and it's top 50 on Amazon right now in terms of clicks or purchases or, you know, watch time. So it's doing well. And look, I would love to explore. There's a lot of things that I didn't get to explore as Eli that I think we could explore as Eli. And we'll see. I would love to, you know, but you know, the powers to be and that are sort of will make that call. And you know, hopefully me and Steve will be gearing up again and working just like we did last year.
So of all the shots that Steve worked with you, what did you have a favorite shot? I know you did some trick shots, you did some techniques. Was there anything in particular that you enjoyed?
Just in terms of a trick shot, it didn't come through. We didn't do it in the movie, but Steve, the one shot where we were on the rail, I hopped the cue ball over a ball, hit the back rail, and it came back and hit corner pocket. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember it well.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's a classic shot. That's an old classic shot. So I'm glad Steve threw that in. And I know that, and as you mentioned earlier, the three of us had worked a little bit on your break shot before the movie done. I knew that everybody gets concerned when the shaft of the cue bends. Were you worried about breaking your cue stick too?
You know what? Like I didn't at first I was, and then Steve was like, don't worry, it's not gonna break. And he was so generous to that the cue that I worked with, that I practiced with was actually Steve's cue, and I used it in the movie, and then he actually gifted it to me, which meant so much to me. And I didn't want to break it. And he's like, trust me, you won't break it. But I think we got to a point, especially in the break with the bend, where it looked really, really legit. And, you know, with the help of you two, obviously.
We did do the scene in my house, though. I will tell you. So I wasn't especially comfortable with the power break. I remember, you know, Darren and Will weren't, you know, they called me and they said, it's very important, power break, you know, a really
Steve,
powerful break.
the reason I asked that, because you asked me,
yes,
won't I break the cue? I said,
no,
but it looks really cool. It looks good. Looks good.
I know. So they say to me, they want this really power break. And I'm like, the one thing I want to say is, as an instructor, you shouldn't teach something you're not comfortable teaching, right? Somebody's going to put a lot of work into what you teach them. And so they called me, they wanted a power break. It was very important to them. And honestly, I wasn't comfortable with it. And that's when I called I reached out for a lifeline. And you were like, oh yeah, the bend, let's have him, shoot with a power break into the cloth, bend the rail.
We just took together an old Johnny Archer style. Some of the old time players, that was a big attraction for people watching some of the pro players on TV. So that's all. I just took a couple of pro players and I mixed up and made that and tried to have you do something that was a little more dramatic. I do have another clip. Be patient with me. I have another clip to come up here. So this is a little bit of a towards the end. We see a level of improvement here. I wanted to see that shot in the movie. There's that hop.
Oh!
There's the bend. So
it's pretty good.
that's big from that first easy side pocket shot that you missed, the 5-ball run to actually doing some nice trick shots and having some style. That's a big transformation, guys, from that beginning to the end. And I give both of you credit. That's a I know that Steve worked on and Darren, that took a lot of work to go through that kind of transformation in just 3 months.
Yeah, I was really committed, and I just wanted it to be believable, and I felt like Steve and you guys got me there, and I'm really happy with how it looked on camera.
Steve, tell me about did the actors do all their own shots, or what were the circumstances around the shots that are shown in the film?
Yeah. So we choreographed the shots. And this is another interesting thing about choreographing the shots. Not all the shots take place in sequence. Sometimes you shoot the last shot first, and then you set up the shots that led up to that last shot. So that was kind of interesting. But I will tell you, Darren did all of his own shots. I'd say 95, 97% of his shots. And in fairness, Spencer Layden, you may know of him, Roy. He was a junior national champion, also joined us on set, and he was one of the consultants as well. He stood in for a very, very small number of shots, but Darren did all his own shots, and I would say many of which were done on a single take, which would, and it was amazing. He would do some of these shots and the place would just go crazy, which was a lot of fun. The place would just absolutely go crazy. And so that was really impressive to me, because there's a lot of pressure. Any of us that may have shot that last 9-ball shot, we get all nervous. Imagine doing those kinds of things with cameras and lights and, sound things on you. And the pressure was enormous. It was really great to see him doing all of his own shots and doing them so well.
Well, I am hoping for a sequel to this.
Me too.
So just to let you know, I'm just throwing that out there. And Steve, you think you have a future in being a movie consultant?
I don't know. I'll tell you, I hope I get the opportunity to do it again. I hope I get the opportunity to work with Darren again. It was an amazing, amazing experience.
And it's Steve's got some pictures on his back, the wall behind him there from the set, which I love to see. And we're gonna get him a movie poster for the wall as well.
That's fantastic. I was like a kid with. I was fortunate enough that this is what I say. They're so gracious. When the movie premiere came out, they invited me, my whole family. Darren called me. He said, "You bring whoever you want." My daughter flew in for it, and I couldn't help it. I was like a little kid. I brought all my pictures from the set. Darren signed them. Everybody signed my pictures. It was It was a thrill.
So Darren, tell me, I know you have some other movie projects out there. Tell us about what else you have. What else is there going on for Darren Weiss?
Yeah, so I just filmed a horror film in Kansas City. I was shooting for 3 weeks at the end of when was it? At the end of April into May, pretty much all of May. A horror film. Before that, I did a true story about. It's a mafia story that we shot on the Warner Brother lot in February here in LA. I had a good role in that. I played my second lead at the beginning of January in New Jersey in a movie called Americano. It's about this basketball player that moves back home because he hurt his knee and has to run his family's coffee shop, and he has decisions to make as he, sort of grows into adulthood, much like, Eli. And so it's been a busy year thus far. And then some movies that are out right now. There's a movie called The Runner. I had a really great role in. That's on Amazon and iTunes and Hulu. Another horror film called Social Disturbance I was in. Another thriller called Bad Impulse. A comedy called Donnie's Bar Mitzvah. So yeah, Miranda's Victim, a true story about how the Miranda rights came to be with Luke Wilson and Donald Sutherland, may he rest in peace. It was amazing to be on set with him, and Abigail Breslin from Little Miss Sunshine, and another comedy called The Italians, where I had a really great role that'll be out later this year with Abigail Breslin and Matthew Daddario. So, a lot of good things are happening, and I hope, Break being my first lead role, I hope, it just shows people that I can lead a movie and I can, have a nice character arc, and it leads to more opportunities of characters or stories that, I'd like to portray,
Fantastic. Well, that's great. And Darren, I'm happy to hear that you're staying with the sport, and we'll continue now. Now, we do have an online training program, so even if you can't meet up with Steve too often, he could still be working with you. He can still be your online coach as well.
Absolutely. But, I love in person and I love seeing Steve. So, hopefully we can get back to doing something once a week, Steve and I. And Roy, spread the word about Break. Tell your students and tell, all your friends about it, so we can get a sequel in the works.
Yeah, well, that's really the goal, isn't it? I want to see a little bit more of this, and we will definitely get the word out and get this thing posted. But listen, guys, I appreciate it. This has been really terrific. I've enjoyed it. I hope you've had a little bit of fun, and I'll put this together and I'll let you know. I'll post this in the next day or two, and I'm looking forward. And Darren, I just watched one of your other movies, by the way, about a Holocaust survivor.
Oh,
and
I forgot to mention that.
And that was a really, really good movie. I really, really enjoyed it. So I'm interested now in seeing some of your other work as well.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for watching.
All right. Listen, thank you guys.
Thank
Thanks
you.
Appreciate
so much.
it. Stay in the pool hall, shoot well. Good luck and shoot straight, okay?
Amen.
Great
All right.
seeing you both. Thanks.
Later, guys. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.